The year 1274 BC. On the banks of the Orontes, the largest chariot battle in history was about to begin.
And soldiers holding their breath.
1274 BC.
On one side, Ramesses II, Pharaoh of Egypt, only 24 years old, leading 20,000 soldiers and 2,000 chariots. He wants to restore his ancestors' glory. On the other side, Muwatalli II, king of the Hittite Empire. He has 40,000 soldiers and 3,700 chariots. He wants to destroy the Egyptian dream before it even begins. But Ramesses walked into a trap. Fake spies lied to him. His army was scattered, and 3,000 enemy chariots were hiding right behind the hill. In one moment, Ramesses was alone. His army was fleeing. His personal guards were surrounded. And historians agree on one thing: he should have died there. I'm right. In this episode, we will break down the military details of the Battle of Kadesh. We will read Ramesses' account as he carved it on his temple walls. And we will tell the other story. The Hittite story. They hid in their capital, Hattusa. So who is lying? The answer may surprise you. Before we understand the battle, we need to understand why Ramesses was willing to die for a small city in northern Syria. Kadesh, a fortified city on a hill, surrounded by the Orontes River on three sides. Its location was like an island. And it was the key to Syria. Whoever controls Kadesh controls the trade route between Egypt and Mesopotamia. Whoever controls Kadesh controls the flow of commerce. Egyptian gold in exchange for timber and cedar from Lebanon, and copper and tin from Cyprus and Anatolia. Ramesses' father, Seti I, had retaken Kadesh 20 years earlier. But after the Egyptian army withdrew, the Hittites came back and seized it again. They also took control of the neighboring kingdom of Amurru. When Ramesses sat on the throne of Egypt, he was 22 years old. His ambition: to do what his father could not. To retake Kadesh forever, and to carve his name on the walls of history. In the spring of his 5th year as Pharaoh, May 1274 BC, Ramesses marched out of his capital, Pi Ramesses, in the eastern delta. With him, 20,000 soldiers, 2,000 war chariots, and thousands of supply carts. The distance from Egypt to Kadesh is about 600 kilometers. A full month of marching. Ramesses led his army at record speed, and he believed that the Hittites were still far away. What Ramesses didn't know was that the Hittite king Muwatalli had been planning for this day for years, and he had assembled an army larger than any in history up to that time. Let's see who was fighting whom. The numbers might shock you. On the Egyptian side, Ramesses II, 24 years old, with 20,000 soldiers and 2,000 chariots. His army was divided into 4 divisions. Amun, protector of the god. Ra, the sun god. Ta, god of crafts and war. And Sutek, god of chaos. Each division had 5,000 soldiers and 500 chariots. On top of that, he had 1,000 Sheridan soldiers, mercenaries from the sea. They had been prisoners of war years earlier, then became Ramesses' most loyal guards. You can recognize them by their round helmets with horns. On the other side, Muwatalli II had assembled a coalition of 18 kingdoms loyal to the Hittites. From the coastal land of Arwad, from the kingdom of Ugarit, from Carchemish on the Euphrates, and from the kingdom of Aleppo. The Hittites had one advantage over the Egyptians: iron, while Egyptian weapons were bronze, copper and tin. The Hittites forged their swords from iron, stronger and sharper, and they kept their technology a military secret. Also, the Hittite chariot carried 3 men: the driver, the spearman, and the shield bearer. The Egyptian chariot carried only 2: the driver and the spearman. That extra man gave the Hittites a major advantage in close combat. But Muwatalli's greatest secret was a carefully planned ambush. He chose the location of Kadesh with precision. He didn't hide far away. He hid behind the eastern hill of the city, just 3 kilometers from where Ramesses would set up camp. Late May 1274 BC, Ramesses arrived at the plain of Kadesh. Only the Ammon division was with him. The Ra division was still in the rear, and the Ta and Sutek divisions were far behind. Ramesses set up his tent on the western bank of the Orontes, directly across from the city of Kadesh. He planned to rest one night, then attack in the morning. Suddenly, Ramesses' guards captured 2 Bedouins. The Bedouins said, "We are from the Shasu tribes. We want to serve the Pharaoh. The Hittite army is far away. He is in Aleppo, north of Tunip, 200 kilometers from here." Ramesses believed them, because he wanted to believe them. He was exhausted after a month of marching. He wanted to rest. He ordered his soldiers to disarm and light their campfires. But then, Ramesses' guards captured 2 more spies. This time, they were real spies from the Hittite army. They were beaten until they talked. And what did they say? They said, "The Hittite king is not in Aleppo. He is here, right behind Kadesh, with all his armies, waiting for you." Ramesses was stunned. He called his army commanders. He screamed at them, "Did you not tell me the enemy was far away, you?" But before he could finish his sentence, he heard a rumble in the distance, then screams. Then, the entire Ra division collapsed. 2,500 Hittite chariots crossed the Orontes River from east to west. They slammed into the Egyptian Ra division from behind. The Egyptian soldiers were still unharnessing their chariots, not even formed up for battle. The Egyptian inscription says, "They did not know they would fight, until the swords fell upon their heads. They scattered in every direction." In less than an hour, the Ra division ceased to exist. 5,000 soldiers were either killed, captured, or fled north toward Ramesses' camp. The survivors of Ra ran toward the Ammon division's camp, and the Hittite soldiers were right behind them. They entered the camp along with the fugitives. The Egyptian soldiers in Ammon didn't know who to fight. Should they strike the fleeing Egyptians or the Hittites? In minutes, the Ammon division also collapsed. Ramesses' soldiers became a mob. Many threw down their weapons and ran to the river. They jumped into the Orontes and tried to swim to the other side to escape. Ramesses looked around him. He was alone. His personal guards were surrounded. Only 50 soldiers from his elite guard remained with him. And around him, 2,500 Hittite chariots were closing in from every direction. A military historian once said, "In this moment, any ordinary commander would have surrendered or died." But Ramesses was no ordinary commander. Here begins the legend. According to the Egyptian inscription, dictated by Ramesses himself, and carved on the walls of his temples, His Majesty went forth alone. No army with him, no guard, no commander. He threw himself into the midst of the enemy like the god Montu in his hour of wrath. Ramesses shouted to his chariot driver, "Forward, don't stop." Then he charged alone, straight into the heart of the Hittite army. The Hittite soldiers did not expect this. They saw the Pharaoh of Egypt charging at them alone. They panicked. They hesitated. Ramesses exploited their confusion and pierced their lines from the eastern flank. The inscription says, "His Majesty slew them like the god Montu." Everyone who stood before him fell, to the right and to the left. Even more, the inscription claims that Ramesses personally killed the brother of the Hittite king, and the king of Aleppo, and the Hittite army commander. Yes, according to the inscription, Ramesses alone killed the most important Hittite leaders. In the middle of this chaos, the Ta division, which had still been on the road, finally arrived at the battlefield. And the Niran division, Canaanite mercenaries, Ramesses had sent ahead to the coast, attacked the Hittites from the rear. The Hittites, who had been winning just an hour earlier, were now trapped between three armies. They retreated. They began crossing the river back to the east. But the river became a graveyard. The inscription says, "His Majesty turned the river into a lake of blood." The corpses of the enemy filled the stream, and their horses floated on the water. By evening, the battle was over. The Hittites had lost 2,000 war chariots, thousands of soldiers, and their most important leaders. Ramesses remained on the battlefield, but he could not break into the city of Kadesh. After the battle, each side declared victory. Ramesses returned to Egypt and ordered his poem carved on every wall of every temple. At Karnak, Luxor, Abu Simbel, and the Ramesseum. This poem is called the Poem of Pentor. It tells how Ramesses alone defeated the Hittite army. How the god sent a fierce wind that blinded the enemy's eyes. How he fought like a god. But in 1906, archaeologists discovered clay tablets written in cuneiform at the Hittite capital, Hattusa in modern-day Turkey. What were they? They were the Hittite account of the battle. It says, "The great Muwatalli defeated the Egyptians at Kadesh. He killed thousands of them. He captured their leaders. And Ramesses fled the battlefield." Who is telling the truth? Historians today say, both are exaggerating. The verified facts. Number 1. Ramesses was trapped and nearly died. Number 2. Ramesses led a counterattack that surprised the Hittites. Number 3. The Hittites withdrew and lost 2,000 chariots. Number 4. Ramesses could not capture Kadesh. Number 5. Ramesses withdrew back to Egypt after the battle. The result, a draw. But who writes history? Ramesses wrote his history on stone. Muwatalli wrote his history on clay. Which one survives to this day? Ramesses' inscriptions still stand on the walls of Egypt's temples. The story of The man who defeated an army alone is the one the world knows. The Hittite tablets shattered along with their empire. Only a few remain in the museums of Europe. After the Battle of Kadesh, fighting between the Egyptians and Hittites continued for another 15 years. No decisive victory for either side, and everyone was exhausted. In 1259 BC, 15 years after Kadesh, the new Hittite king, Hattusa III, made Ramesses an offer peace. The two sides agreed on several terms. First, a permanent border between the two empires. Second, not to attack each other. Third, a military alliance if a third enemy attacked either side. And fourth, the extradition of political fugitives. This treaty is the oldest signed peace treaty in history. The original silver copy is in the Istanbul Museum, and a carved copy is on the wall of the Karnak Temple in Luxor. And to this day, a copy of this treaty hangs in the United Nations building in New York, as a symbol of humanity's oldest attempt to stop wars. The Battle of Kadesh ended 3,300 years ago. Ramesses died. Muwatalli died. The Hittites vanished, but the battle remained. Lesson 1. Never underestimate your enemy. Ramesses was too confident, and he almost paid the price. Pause. Lesson 2. A courageous leader can change the outcome. If Ramesses had surrendered, the story would have ended there. Pause. Lesson 3. Don't trust spies, especially if they tell you what you want to hear. Lesson 4. Peace is better than war. After 15 years of fighting, both sides realized that peace served them better than war. The question I will leave for you in the comments: do you think Ramesses' account of his single-handed heroism is true? Or is it ancient royal propaganda, just like what nations do today? If you made it this far, it means you love the truth behind the story. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell. In the next episode, we will dig into another secret of ancient warfare. Funny fact: after the treaty, Ramesses married the daughter of the Hittite king. Yes, the Pharaoh of Egypt married a Hittite princess to seal the peace. Imagine, after all that blood, they became in-laws. See you in the next one.